Hey everyone, today we want to talk about IOTA and a fight that escalated between the two founders and how two of the founders actually became rich with IOTA tokens that didn't really belong to them. So let's get started. First of all, IOTA was a project that came out of a company called Gin Labs at the beginning. And Gin Labs back at the time in 2015 and before was actually mostly run by two of the IOTA founders, and that were David Sønstebø and Sergey. And he's also called, or his nickname is actually Come From Beyond, or CFB. And they actually did a company that was called Gin Labs, and they had the idea to develop some VR technology, and then they came up with the Tangle technology and so on. And out of that came actually IOTA. And then the other two co-founders, Dominic and the other Sergey, joined, and IOTA was born. And they did an ICO in 2015. Raised some money, and then developed a cryptocurrency and a platform called IOTA. And then a few days ago, there was actually a big fight between two of the founders. It was not the first fight. There was one fight in 2018 that became public, where the two Sergeys wanted to be part of the IOTA Foundation's board, and there was a chat leaked, and we could read the chat, and we could see that there was actually a big fight between the founders. And now we have that situation again, but this time it's a fight between two of the founders. And the fight is between CFB, so one of the Sergeys, and David Sønstebø. And the reason for the fight is basically that Gin Labs have a lot of IOTAs, and now it's unclear if they belong to David Sønstebø or to CFB. But if you read the letter that David Sønstebø wrote like a couple of days ago, it's an open letter for the IOTA community, and he describes how he started Gin Labs and how they didn't have money at the beginning and what their first ideas were and how everything got started, and then how they transformed to IOTA and so on. It basically leaves the question open how Gin Labs got so much money, because we know now that Gin Labs had more than 50 TI, so that are 50 million IOTAs or IOTAs, whoever you want to call it, and 50 million IOTAs are actually worth around 16, 17, 18 million US dollar. So it's quite a lot of money. And at the peaks, the company actually had 65 TI, so 65 million IOTA, so that are worth currently more than 20 million US dollar. And it's unclear, or it was unclear until a few days ago, how they got so much money into Gin Labs, because Gin Labs is not really part of IOTA anymore. It was like the beginning, but they raised money, but the money was for IOTA. And so it was a bit unclear, because one of the good things IOTA did was that they did an ICO in 2015. They raised $500,000 in Bitcoin. We have to remember, back in 2015, the Bitcoin price was around 350 to 450 US dollar. And the Bitcoin price got up in the following years, and so they had more money in the IOTA Foundation for the project. And what actually happened was, and how they got so much money, especially Come From Beyond and David Sønstebø, was that they picked up the IOTA that weren't claimed during the ICO. So what actually happened was that there was the ICO, but when you invested into IOTA, when you did invest in IOTA in 2015, you didn't get the tokens. You had to wait a couple of months, and then you could claim them later on. And there were some people that didn't claim the IOTA. You have to remember, nobody knew about IOTA. It was like a project people could invest in, but it wasn't big back then, so some people forgot, maybe some people died and whatever, and so there were just some IOTA that weren't claimed. And so what happened was that David Sønstebø and his back then friend and Come From Beyond actually claimed that IOTA for them. So they claimed 65 Ti, and that's what we know today. So they used the 65 Ti, so now worth around 20 million US dollar, and claimed them and put them into Gin Labs, and they own Gin Labs. So David Sønstebø and CFB both own Gin Labs. So it's like, if you divide it half, it would be everyone gets like 32.5 Ti. So quite a lot of money. And the question actually is if it is correct that they claimed the unclaimed IOTAs from the ICO, because what also happened was that the community that invested IOTA also put aside 5% of their IOTAs, of the total IOTA supply, to fund the IOTA Foundation. And that's why we have now the foundation, and the foundation has some money. But instead of giving the unclaimed IOTAs to the foundation, David Sønstebø and CFB claimed them for them and for Gin Labs, for the company. And now they are rich with these IOTAs. And now the fight is between the two of them, if Come From Beyond actually owns half of them or not. Come From Beyond claims that he owns, I have it here somewhere, that he owns 25 Ti, so let's assume there are still 50 Ti left in the company at Gin Labs, so he then claims half of them. You have to remember that's an amount of around 8 million US dollar or a bit more, depending which IOTA price you are using. So, and he wants actually or Come From Beyond actually wants his share from the company, which is about half of it. And David doesn't want to give it to him because he says Come From Beyond doesn't do anything to develop IOTA further, and he can have the rights on Gin Labs and everything the company has, but not the IOTAs that are in the company. And that's why the fight escalated in public, and it's still escalating on Twitter and Discord and all the other channels. And so yeah, you have to come up with your own opinion if it is right or not that the founders actually picked up the unclaimed IOTAs and got rich with them instead of putting them into the IOTA Foundation. If you read it here on Reddit, you can actually see that most of the people don't agree with the founders, and they think it was actually wrong. And that was actually one of the good things IOTA did. They didn't do a pre-mine like Ethereum did, where the founders all got some Ether at the beginning. It didn't happen, or it wasn't the case for IOTA. So if a founder wanted IOTA, he had to buy it actually at the ICO. However, later, as we know now, CFB and David claimed some IOTA. So you have to make up your own mind and come up with an opinion for you if it is right or not, and what you think about the project. That's basically it. If you have a question, use the comments down below. If you like the channel, please subscribe and like the video. Thanks.